Good evening, everyone. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome all of you to this national level webinar on Convergence of AI, Quantum Computing, Autonomous Drones, and Agentic AI, the future of intelligent systems. I am Gisha MS, third year electronics student from Anna University, Guindy campus, and I'm honored to be a host for this webinar. We are delighted to bring this session to you through ARPR Events in association with CSI-Mumbai Chapter and IET Chennai Local Network, along with our knowledge partners. Today's webinar explores how cutting-edge technologies are coming together to shape the future, from intelligent machines to autonomous decision-making systems. We have with us an exceptional lineup of speakers, each bringing deep expertise and insight into these transformative domains. So, without further delay, let's move ahead and begin today's session. It's my privilege to introduce you all of our esteemed speakers for this webinar. First up, we will be having Dr. V.D. Ambedkumar Sir, the Associate Professor from Mizoram University. Our second speaker for this webinar will be Dr. R. Murugan Sir, Associate Professor of National Institute of Technology, Puducherry. Our third speaker will be Dr. Ranjay Hazra, the Associate Professor of NIT Silchar. And finally, Dr. R. Rajkumar, Associate Professor from VIT, Chennai. We are truly honored to have such distinguished academicians and experts to share their knowledge and expertise with all of us today. After each speaker, we will be having our Q&A session. So audience, please go ahead and put your questions in the chat box, which will be asked to our speakers towards the end of their session. To begin our technical session, I warmly invite Dr. V.D. Ambedkumar Sir to deliver his talk on AI and machine learning algorithms for image processing. Sir, the podium is yours.
Thank you for inviting me. Okay. I will share. Oh, share option is there. My screen is visible, right?
No, sir, not visible.
Hello?
Screen is not visible, sir. Yes, sir, visible.
Okay. Okay. So welcome you all. 1 minute. Hello? Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Now?
Yes, sir, visible.
Okay, good. Okay, so first of all, I would like thanks to for audience and as well as the expert. Okay, today my topic is AI and ML algorithms for image processing. This topic is given to us. Okay, that's why I'm taking for AI and ML. algorithms for image processing. So before I'm starting, first I will explain what is AI. So everyone know what you mean by artificial intelligence, right? So intelligence. So whatever we have make on mission like human think, okay, that is called as artificial intelligence. So we make for some intelligent missions. So what do you mean by intelligent mission, non-intelligent missions? So so intelligent mission, for example, for the intelligent missions, so I am making one automatic car, right? That is called as whatever based on the voice, the car will move, right? So whenever see the obstacle, the car will be stopped. That is an intelligent mission, right? So non-intelligent mission is nothing but it's a smart watch, normal watch, right? That is called non-intelligent mission, right? So this is what is intelligent and non-intelligent missions. Generally, this intelligent mission is made by the artificial intelligence techniques. Okay. So next classification of machine learning algorithms. So before artificial intelligence, so what do you mean by machine learning and deep learning? So machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence, right? And deep learning is nothing but some subset of machine learning, so everyone know, right? So machine learning, so the machine learning algorithms, so whatever it's made by some intelligent algorithms, that is called as a machine learning. In the deep learning it uses for the artificial intelligence techniques, okay, intelligence, that is called as deep learnings. In the machine learning algorithm classification, everyone know that is a supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning. Supervised learning, so whatever we have the data, that data is a labeled data we learn to the machine. According to the machine, the machine will predict the answer. That is called as supervised learning. So unsupervised learning means unlabeled data. So we have didn't train to the our data to our model. The model automatically they predict it based on the a structure and something, okay, that is called as unsupervised learning, right? So in this supervised learning, we are using for the classification and regression algorithms. In unsupervised learning we are using for the clustering and association rule, right? So here I will explain. I'm not explain for all the algorithms, okay? So because my topic is artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithm for the image processing, right? So everyone basic in the 8th class school level, everyone know what you mean by artificial intelligence. So machine learning also, everyone know about the machine learning, right? What is the machine learning, what are the algorithms there, right? So here, so I will mention some algorithm for the machine learning algorithm. Supervised learning have the classification. This classification for logistic regression, navy base and knn techniques and decision tree, these are the algorithm for the classification purpose. And here I mentioned for the linear regression and decision tree, support vector mission, these are the algorithm we are using regression purpose, right? Sometimes support vector mission we are using the classification purpose also, right? So here you see this diagram. From the diagram everyone understand. So supervise what are the algorithm for the classification purpose, what are the algorithm for the regression purpose, what are the algorithm for the clustering purpose, what are the algorithm for the reinforcement technique, right? Okay, so before I will explain what classification and regression, only I am explaining these two topic only, classification and regression. So what will be first regression? Regression is nothing but based on the predefined data to predict discrete answer, right? Exact answer, that is called as a regression. Classification means based on the data they to classify either true or false, the male or female, that manner we do classify the classes, right? That is called as a classification, okay? So generally in the regression I will explain only one example because due to the time delay 20 minutes only they allocate to me, that's why I will directly come the point. In the regression, right? So how to do the regression model, right? So what here I mentioned, what do you mean by linear regression? So linear regression is a statistical method used to the model to relationship between the two variables, independent and dependent variables. What do you mean by dependent and independent variables, right? So for example, I gave the some data. According to the data, I predict some answer. So the obviously the answer, the output, the target should be depend on the input. So here the output is a dependent and input is a dependent. So this is called as so first we make the model based on the dependent and independent variable, right? So in this linear regression to predict the that's why before that also I'm telling to predict the continuous output values, that is called as a linear regression, right? So how to implement this linear regression in the machine learning in graphs? So generally this is a linear regression model. This model equal to logistic regression and model equal to fit X train and Y train, right? This is every known, right? So model equal to logistic regression means all obviously in the logistic regression what so many procedure is there inside, that procedure will execute. So this is a simple two lines, right? Everyone using this line you are getting the answer, but my suggestions, don't do the directly don't do using for this key don't to use for this direct comments. Okay, so before that you understand how the logistic regression will run. Okay, so logistic for here I will mention one example. So here I mentioned the study hours, student study hours. Okay, so different kind of student is there. So first student will prepare for 1 hour, they got for the 15 marks, and second student they prepare the study hours for the 2 hours preparation, he got for the 70 marks. So third student they prepare for the 4 hours preparation, so he got for the 60 marks, and the fourth student they prepare for the 8 hours preparation for the examination, 95 marks he got it. So now they question ask, one student they prepare for the 6 hours, how much mark it will get? So obviously this problem is a regression problems. Already I said regression means based on the data, so do predict the exact values, right? That is called as a regression. So obviously we know, so this is for the regression problems. In this regression problem, before I say many regression algorithm is there, linear regression is there, decision tree is there, support vector, so you can use any algorithm to build this model. Okay, so here obviously this model equal to logistic regression, you are using this, obviously from the data you upload here automatically you are getting answer, right? So how it will run, I will because everyone so right now search in the internet, every algorithm already there, right? Okay, but you should know how to the algorithm will run. Okay, that manner you should do. So I already said, so based on the dependent independent data, you draw the graph, from the graph you find the best fit line, that is called as a linear regression, it's run, right? So here these are the data. So already I said what are so data have dependent independent variable. What is the independent and dependent variable? This is output target, right? This target is depends on the study hours, right? So obviously this is for the dependent variable, this is input is an independent variable, right? So according to the independent and dependent variable, first I make the graph, right? Okay, so here I am plot the graphs. So here I from the example, so first student they prepare the study hours 1 hour, so he got 15 marks. Here I will write 1 hour preparation, he got 15 marks. Second student he prepared for 2 hours for the examination, he got for the 70 marks. So 2 hours preparation for the second student, he got for the 70 marks. Likewise I am using, so whatever we have the data, first that data should be plotted. Okay, after plotted, so next you draw the line. So you know line formula. So what is the line formula? Y equal to mx plus c. So m means slope, c means interception. So every lines depends on the m and c. Okay, so next I will draw for the straight line. So here I will draw the straight line for this after this straight line, so I find the error for this is a predicted value, right? So I find the error for each data point. So here 1 to 15, so 15 to here I will subtract the error, I find here I find the error, here I find the error, here I find the error. So from the error, okay, this is called as a mean sum square error, right? MSC, right? We find the error. After find the error, you find the minimum error, right? So this is the first line I will draw, so I find the error. So second case I will draw the line this manner, So I find the errors. So next I will draw the next line, I will find the errors. So likewise, this logistic regression they are using itself. So they draw the multiple lines. So every multiple line they find the error. From the error they find for the minimum error. That error should be, it's good for selecting the best fit line. Okay, that manner the logistic regression will work. So here I am showing in the first case approximately 1200 error, second case 800 error. This is approximation, right? So third case line I got the 600 error. From the 600 error won't be minimum error, so that's why, so here this line is the best fit line. Okay, that manner the logistic regression will run. So why I say this one? Okay, so generally in the logistic regression, everyone using model dot logistic regression, everyone use this single line. Obviously, everyone will get the answer. But many people they does not know how the logistic regression is run. So that manner, that's why I am explaining this part. Okay, logistic regression they run this manner. Okay, so okay, this is a minimum error. So next, this generally the line means based on the m and c, right? So m means slope and c mean interception. So in this logistic regression also two method is there. One is a random permutation and gradient descent method. So random permutation means, so generally the best line based on the m and c, right? So this here m and c, right? So randomly you take m equal to 1, c equal to 1, m equal to 2, and c equal to 1. And that manner, this is a random permutation, right? Permutation combination, you know, right? Already you studied in the probability tuning model, right? So this m and c value you randomly you select. So finally you get the answer, right? Okay, this is one method for the select for the best fit line. Another best fit line based on the gradient descent. What do you mean by gradient descent? So gradient descent means first in this C, right? In this interception, I put 0. Obviously, what is the straight line formula? Y equal to mx. Here in this equation, you substitute m equal to 1, 2, 3. Likewise, you can use. Obviously, you are getting the error. This is for the gradient descent error. So generally, in this logistic regression, it run for the two mode. One is a permutation method and gradient descent method. Generally, in the logistic regression in the algorithm, they are using gradient descent method only. Okay, okay. Okay, next I will come to the image processing project workflow. So before I said what is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence means to make an intelligent machine. Okay, that is called as artificial intelligence. In this artificial intelligence algorithm, many algorithm, machine learning algorithm, deep learning algorithm is there. What do you mean by machine learning algorithm? So machine learning algorithm to make one intelligent machine based on some set of algorithms, right? In a deep learning is nothing but to make the artificial intelligence with ANN, artificial neural concept. Okay, so this is a difference between machine learning and deep learning, right? In the machine learning have many algorithm is there. So supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement is there. So in this types of the machine learning, so many algorithm is there. So now I explain only for the regression algorithm. Regression means, so you predict the answer, exact answer based on the your data set. Okay, that is for the supervised algorithms. Okay, regression is a supervised algorithm to predict exact answer. So generally in everyone search in the internet, what is the syntax for the logistic regression? Model equal to logistic regression. That is a general function, right? So but everyone should know how to logistic regression will run. That is very important, right? Next, image processing. So you know image processing, image is nothing but f of x comma y. So it's a 2D representation, that is image processing, right? General image processing project. So first we should know the data, right? That is because where we collect the data part is very important. Without data we didn't do the anything, right? So first the image processing project or any application project, the data is important, right? So next you do for the data pre-processing. Data pre-processing, what do you mean by pre-processing? Pre-processing means to improve the image pixel quality. That is called as a pre-processing, right? Data pre-processing. After data pre-processing, you analyze the data. So you have 100 or 2000 data is there. From the data right? So which data is a proper data? So some data is, for example, I am taking some facial recognition data set. In this facial recognition data set, some unwanted data set also there, right? So that data set you should be analyzed. You remove that data set. That is what is a data analysis. Before you start implementation, you analyze your data, right? After analyze the data, you split the data. So why you need for splitting? Suppose you have 1,000 data, all the 1,000 data to based on the 1,000 data you implement the model, means which data should go and testing for the purpose. It is very difficult, right? That's why your data should be you splitted training and testing. How to split, in every researcher using 70/30, 80/20, that manner they do splitting, but don't do for the equally. Okay, that manner you do for the training and the testing data split. After the splitting the data, you build the model. So you build the machine learning or deep learning model. So already I said machine learning have many algorithm is there. So machine learning is a many algorithm set of existing algorithm is that you are using existing algorithms. Deep learning we are using neural network concept, right? Okay, after build the model, you do evaluate for your model, that model is correctly run or not. That manner we do image processing concept. Okay, this is a general workflow for the image processing project. Okay, so yeah, first I set the data collection. So where we collect the data? So generally in the image processing data, right, we collect not only image processing data, any data we collect from the Google, right? Generally we are searching Google, or some repositories there, some in healthcare application use UCI machine learning repository is there, and you collect from the GitHub. That manner you collect the data, right? So first you collect the data. After they collect the data, you do for the pre-processing. So in the image means what kind of pre-processing generally the people will use? You remove the noises, or contrast stretching, contrast slicing, and histograms, right? So that manner many algorithm is there. I'm not say you should use this pre-processing. According to our problem, we can using our we can choose our pre-processing technique. Okay, so after do the pre-processing technique, then do for the data analysis. So already I said how to do the data analysis. In this data analysis, suppose we have using some kind of breast cancer or some anything, that's a facial recognition. I said the example, you using facial recognition. In this facial recognition data set, suppose some fingerprint data set is there, mean this is unwanted data set, you remove that. So that manner you do analyze your data. After analyze the data, next you go for the splitting. So already I said training and testing. So whatever you have the data, according to the data you split the data, right? So the X train and Y train, X test, Y test, that manner you would split the data. After split the data, you build the models. So based on the problem, suppose you can using for the classification, you using for the classification technique. So suppose you are using some regression. Generally we are not using for the image problem, we are not using regression. So numeric data means we can using regression, and generally classification image data means we are using classification techniques, right? That manner we can use. In the deep learning, suppose you have large amount of data, means you can using for the deep learning algorithm. So the main difference between the deep learning and machine learning, generally the machine learning algorithm, the whatever we have the feature, that feature fit to the our model. But in the deep learning we didn't do any fit the features. So you just put the input to your model, the model will train themselves based on the texture, based on the features they will extract. Okay, that manner they do it. Okay, that is called the deep learning algorithm. Okay. So okay, that's all my side.
Thank you very much, sir, for that insightful address and your deep explanation on several topics, such as image processing, logistic regression. You also explained about the whole process on how it happens with machine learning and deep learning both. So, we have a few questions for you, sir, from our audience. So, we would like to ask
Yeah.
that to you. Yes, sir. So, Of course, there are some real world challenges when we come to the more advanced techniques of image processing. Can you give us a few challenges that we face in terms of accuracy or data requirements or the costs it takes for this advanced methods of image processing, sir?
Okay, so generally in the image processing, many application in image processing application, many application is there. So generally healthcare application, right? So I will tell one example in the healthcare application, right? So I will take some tumor detection data. Okay, so any tumor detection data, right? So suppose in the input we can using whole image data, whole image we can take it. Otherwise you take particular that portion only you can take it, right? Which one is good for your implementation? You take full image, you suppose you take for example, you show you I saw your face, right? So this is a full image, right? So in this full image I upload to the our model, or otherwise from the particular portion is there, that portion only I will segment it. That segmented data I upload to the model, which model is good for protect for the tumor, obviously segmented, right? So you understand what I'm telling? So for
Yes.
example, one image is there, in this image one tumor we plan to detect, right? So obviously whole image also you upload to your model, or otherwise you segment the portion, particular portion. So you extract that tumor, then the tumor will upload to your model, then according to that particular portion they detect that is image is tumor or not tumor, or what is the stage of the tumor, right? So that's why generally the image processing have so many topics, sir. For example, everyone generally using image acquisition, obviously without image we didn't do, right? Image acquisition is the important. Everyone using pre-processing, because sometime the image will be good or sometime is not good, or otherwise sometime you have limited data images there, so you increase the data set normalization you can do. This is a some kind of pre-processing everyone should do. But sometimes color processing, so suppose I am using one tumor detection, that tumor detection there is no need for the color processing. Some people they detect for some object detection, that time we can using for the color processing. That's why color processing is important for some research. Color processing does not important for some research, right? So another one is object detection. Object detection every can using. Morphology, sometimes some people they are using morphology, some people does not using morphology. This is a solo depends on the person. So suppose I am doing some research, according to the my research I will using for all the technique. All the technique means image acquisition, pre-process. This is a fundamental image processing steps. All the fundamental pre-processing steps everyone use. Some people they are using particular image processing technique they use. Depends on the problems. Okay, depends on the problems. You do image processing technique. Okay.
Perfect, sir. Thank you so much for that beautiful explanation on the question. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and ideas for today's webinar, sir. And it was a pleasure having you with us today. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Next up, we will be having another enlightening speaker of ours. Please help me invite for the topic Quantum Computing for Medical Image Analysis. Please help me invite Dr. R. Murugan, sir, to present it. Sir, we are eager to hear your insights on quantum computing for medical image analysis. The stage is yours, sir. So you're not audible, sir. Could you speak a little louder, sir? Not audible. No, sir. Not audible. In the meantime, let me give you a short recap of what we have planned for our today's event. So first up, we heard our AI and ML algorithms for image processing. That was the topic from Dr. V.D. Ambedkumar, sir. Next up, we'll be having the quantum computing for medical image analysis by Dr. R. Murugan, sir. Third, we will be having our drone technology and autonomous systems by Dr. Ranjay Hazra sir. And finally, we'll be closing it with Agentic AI as the topic by Dr. R. Rajkumar sir. So, audience, as you listen to all of these speakers speaking, please go ahead, shoot your questions in the live chat, and you will get the opportunity to get your question answered by our speakers themselves. So, we'll give some time for Dr. R. Murugan sir before he joins us. No, sir, still not. Your voice is very feeble, sir.
Okay, but my voice is getting right, but it's not audible.
We're not able to understand, sir. It's still low. Can you try now, sir?
Yeah, I'm just changing the microphone. Maybe
Yes.
better now. Maybe better
Much
now.
better. Much better, sir.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk in front of you. So without further ado, I'm just sharing my screen. Is my screen visible to you?
Not yet, sir.
Jisa, can you confirm is my screen is visible?
No, sir, it's not visible yet. Not visible.
Not visible. So I'm presenting slides. Computer. I'm just find the other option, uploading.
Yes, sir, it's visible now. Please
Yes,
proceed. Yes.
perfect. Yeah. Yeah, so good morning again, good evening. So the topic which I'm going to present today is that quantum computing for medical image analysis. So the topic is very, very essential in the present time because everywhere which you're talking about medical image analysis or medical image processing, the processing is play a vital role. So here how actually the medical images are processing for the quick decision that we have to do a lot of pre-processing or we can do the feature extraction steps based on the image or the input which we are going to apply. So this is the one part, and another part, this we always depend on the computing technologies. So if you look at in this context, like the quantum computing is an emerging area that will primarily helpful to process an image or any of the informations as much as quick as possible. Then finally, like it will go for the decision. So now if you look at in this case, like let me talking about the primary steps related to medical imaging. As we'll have to clear with this medical imaging term with the audience, if you look at the imaging, like in medical imaging perspective, it is the medical image is nothing but it is a typical image. The dimensionality may be three dimensional, two dimensional, three dimensional, or sometimes four dimensional as well. And we have multiple imaging modality which we known to us like MRI, CT, OCT. All these are all very, very typical images nowadays. Now, what challenges generally the clinicians actually facing to experience this technology or to process the technology? Generally, the images are large in volume, like, the numbers are more, right? So that we need to process. And when we are going to process the huge data, of course, we require high computational cost. So how actually we are addressing the complexity? And even if the data volume is large and if you are playing a high computational cost, and of course, in medical imaging perspective, we require then the best performance metrics, or we can say that the need and better accuracy. So, like, these are all very challenges in the recent time with these limited available resources. So that's why we people are always thinking into the new technology always. Now, if you look at in this context, what is quantum computing? People are everywhere talking about quantum computing. So it's a very simple to understand about the audience. The quantum computing is nothing but it is the branch of computer science. So even if it coming into the branch of computer science, which you always dealing with the bit, right, in always. But if you look at the quantum computing, instead of mentioning the classical bit, it will mention the qubit, right? So zeros and ones, like, but if it is in the bit, either 0 or 1, right? So in that way, the quantum computing always uses the qubit instead of bit. And how it is possible to mention the qubit based on a multiple concept, which is very, very familiar in quantum physics. Say one is called superposition, and another one is called entanglement, and another one is quantum parallelism, and some other additional, the quantum physics also helpful to mention the qubit, which is include quantum interfaces. So all these concepts are basically involving in quantum computing that will helpful to like process the data, of course, to compute very efficiently. Now, when you're talking about quantum computing, being the audience, which are also familiar into the classical computing. So how the the quantum computing is differ from the classical computing. As I said, based on the number of bits, the classical computing using the number of bit, and it is of course the quantum computing using the qubit. And what advantage which you are getting if you use to the qubit? So if you look at the primary calculator with transistor, which we are traditionally using in our day-to-day activities, they're all working with the switches. Either it can be on and off. So that means the switches binary. And if you look at the qubit, like it will calculate the billions of outputs, right? So in in a time, in a specific time, that we can able to process or calculate billions of output, which can be represented in infinite number of outcome at once. So this is the very simple way of the understanding classical computing and the quantum computing. So that's why the quantum computings are very famous in recent time to process the data quickly. Okay, now there are two technology which is emerging. One is called medical imaging, and another one is called the quantum computing. So here, how these two technologies actually interfacing with each other. Then in this context, if you think about why quantum for medical imaging, like what is the necessity of it? Whenever we are going to handle the medical data, of course, which will handle high dimensionality, right? So, of course, to process this high dimensional data, we required a faster computing technology, which is called quantum. And when we have a dimensional data, and we have to do a lot of, if you look at the data is an image, and we require, faster optimization that will primarily helpful for extracting the feature from the image, and also after extracting the feature to select a specific features from the image in both way, which required an faster optimizations. So if the features is completely extracted from the image, then it is fine. Otherwise, we need to improve the feature extraction. So for all the purpose which we can use the quantum algorithms, especially to address all these challenges. That's why in quantum computing is also very famous in medical imaging domain. Now, which we are like somehow we learned about quantum computing, and if you look at the other term which is called, we like to define the quantum machine learning, is simply abbreviated as QML. What is this QML? So specifically, the QML means that it is the hybrid algorithm, like the particular algorithm, like the machine learning, which will combine the traditional artificial intelligence as well as the quantum computing, both. So why it is required? Of course, it is required for medical imaging applications, because the medical image processing involve in multiple steps, and primarily we can use the quantum computing for feature extraction and feature selections and all, and finally for classification we have to use the traditional AI. So that way, which we can also call it as the QML, is also a part of quantum algorithm, but it's a hybrid kind of algorithm. So there are multiple QML model which is presently available based on the literature, like variational quantum circuits, quantum neural network, hybrid model. So these are all the very popular models. Generally, we can directly use for any of the medical imaging applications. If you look at the QML, quantum machine learning, so how the flow generally the researcher which we need to do, that we used to call system architecture. So like it's a very the first three steps are very very common. Input is the image, and the pre-processing, feature encoding. It's very common. And when we are coming into the tradition, the QML purpose, and we need to go for design the quantum circuit, then we have to measure it. Then finally, the measurement will feed into the classifier. Then finally, the classifier will classify which stage or whatever the classification that we want to perform. So in this case, like the first step, which we can say the feature encoding is a primary part of this like quantum computing. So here for performing quantum feature encoding, which we need to depend the multiple algorithmic steps, which include angle encoding, amplitude encoding, and data mapped into the qubits. So these are all the process basically involved in the quantum feature encoding. If you read into very deep into each and every encoding steps, then it will be very very easy to understand to propose some of the new or novel encoding algorithm in any of the medical imaging applications. And when we are coming into the QCNN, so of course, which we, as I told you, even though which you are doing the processing is in quantum, but the classification generally which will involve in the traditional CNN. So if you merge with the hybrid kind of algorithm, which will also have to perform quantum convolution, enhancement layers, measurement, all these are the general process of the quantum CNN. Yes, well, so these are all which we are, which very familiar and the recent state-of-the-art technology, and where this technology, which is basically involved in medical imaging. So we can do a lot of image analysis in this combination of medical imaging and quantum computing. So for example, tumor detection with MRI images, retinal disease detection, we can use OCT image or fundus image, and we can also use the CT image for lung disease classification and much more. So there are plenty of applications in medical imaging. So of course we can select any one of these one. So with this primary introductory part, which the additional time, which I like to highlight some of my research outcome, which is the combination of retinal disease detection and with the quantum computing. If you look at one of the typical disease, which is called retinal detachment, so this is very dangerous eye disease, and the symptoms is very very minimum. So that's why the patient is generally, if you go for the sleep in the night and early morning, the retina may be detached. So this is a very very dangerous disease, and this disease which will be actually used for quantum computing for many purpose, like which will have why we actually are going for it, and what is the challenges that we can discuss in this slide. So if you look at the first image, it is the typical retina. Whenever we are getting the detachment in some portion of the vision, we are unable to see. So that way we will get a lot of batches in the vision. So automatically your vision will be blurred. So that impact we used to call retinal detachment. And if you look at the typical fundus image, which is captured in the fundus camera in the eye scan, so which will be looking like this. So some portion of image is completely, the blurred, and another portions which is called, we can able to see the lesions which is present in the image. And in this case, if you look at the retinal detachment case, there are 4 different types of retinal detachment which is available apart from the normal case. If you look at the first image, which is called a normal, and second image, if you look at, this is called actually rhemotoneous retinal detachment, and second one is tractional, and another one is TRD. So these all different stages which you can see here. There are totally different from each other, and like finding the right stage of the disease is very, very difficult for clinicians. So this is one challenge, and another challenge is like collecting the retinal detachment disease image, which are very, very minimum. If you go with the traditional deep learning algorithm, which required a huge amount of data, that's why which are not depending on any of the deep learning, which are going into the the quantum algorithm, then further the classification. So that's why if you look at in this context, like the early stage of detection is essential, and we also required the automated AI-based solutions. So in this case, we have formulated the problem in this retinal detachment. We have very limited data set, and the images are very high resolution, and it required a computational cost, and we required efficient feature extraction, because the identifying the lesion of one stage from other stage is very, very difficult. So we require an efficient feature extraction. Then only we can able to classify the proper or the correct stage of the disease. So in this case, which we have proposed a traditional workflow, which include hybrid quantum and classical CNN, then quantum feature extraction, then finally a classical classifier that we are used in this works. If you look at this methodology which is involved in 4 major steps. One is the data which are applying in the input as a 2-dimensional image, and which we are done some part of pre-processing. Then the pre-processing which will feed into the quantum circuit definition, then followed by quantum convolution for feature extraction, then finally which are used the traditional CNN model for classification. Then finally, which we can get the result from the methodology, then we can evaluate how much accuracy the particular methodology is actually producing. So this way we have carried out the research, the combination of these 2 technology. For this methodology, by testing the different images, we have used 1600 retinal images, and there are 4 classes: healthy, exudative, rhemotoneous, tractional. And out of 1600, we have used 1200 for training and 400 for testing. And the pre-processing which are involved in the methodology, which we have done 3 major pre-processing: resizing, grayscale conversion, normalization. Then also additionally we have performed train and test split. Then if you look at the another stage, the quantum layer, which we have been developed 2x2 patches in the qubit. Then we have done the encoding, ROI encoding, attachment, and finally the measurement which are done by the poly-Z measurement technique, which is very, very famous in the quantum algorithm. Then finally, we have used the classical CNN network, which Platin, of course, is the common one, and 1064 Rayleigh activation function, which have used. And finally, it is a 4-class softmax function, which have used in the network. And in addition to that, hyperparameter selection is also very important. in any of the neural network. So for this work, which have been used Adam optimizer and number of epoch 30, batch size 4, and we also use the cross entropy, loss is the cross entropy. So if you applied all this hyperparameter tuning, which we have achieved accuracy of 95% of with even less amount of data. So the same which we have also tested with the traditional CNN, it's not a quantum, that which we are 94.25. But when you are going to use the quantum, which is gradually increasing 0.75 percentage of accuracy. So in that way, like this quantum, computing is helpful for the improved accuracy, and also we can use for the generalization. So in this context, we have also tested the performance metrics, not only for accuracy, but also we have tested the other performance metrics such as precision recall, F1 score, AUC, and in terms of confusion matrix and ROC and all. And for the reference of audience, I have given the screenshot of confusion matrix for all the 4 classes and how the ROC is actually generating. If you look at attempting the ROC, it is almost like more than 85% of the classes in each classes. So in that way, the what architecture which we have been developed in this works, which will be yielding the maximum outcome of this classification. So in to prove the efficient of this particular methodology, we have also compared with the CNN, and if you look at if you want to use the CNN, we have to use multiple hyperparameter. But in quantum computing, we have selected very few parameter. Even we are getting the better results, and also better feature learning is also we have observed based on the classical computing. So the advantage is like the quantum computing is also helpful to handle small data with the better metrics, and also the algorithm will be more suitable to identify the complex pattern from the input image. Then finally, it will given the efficient computation. That is very, very essential in the recent time. So the concluding remarks of this keynote talk is that, of course, the QCNN improve the retinal disease detections as I discussed in this methodological part. Of course, I'm very sure this quantum technology will be ruling another 10 to 15 years for developing a promising medical AI in the recent in the upcoming years. So the future work, of course, we always ran the quantum algorithm with the traditional computer, but still we required a quantum computing, quantum hardware, so that even we can get ultra fast, the classification, and also we'll get more metrics, the improved metrics that we can get. And also in future, we can try to improve the circuits. That way also we can possibly increase the performance metrics. Then finally, we can also use some kind of noise reduction techniques in between the processing. So in that way, if you put all these kind of feature work, of course, this 95% may increase to or more. That will be finally helpful in the medical community. So these are all the main key talk which I want to highlight with you all. And thank you so much for your attention. And now the remaining time it will be open for the queries.
Thank you very much, sir, for your beautiful explanation on quantum ML, uses of the quantum computing, the procedures that were involved in all of this, the applications, the retinol detachment, CNN and QCNN, the comparison and everything. Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your insights. And we have one question from our audience, sir, if I may.
Yes, please.
So, generally, what are the advantages that quantum computing offers over the classical methods that were followed in complex medical data imaging, sir? Just the advantages.
Yeah, so here the advantage is that, say for example, sometimes if you use the medical data, the one lesion may be interface with some other lesions. Like, so in that way, if you use the classical computing, it may be overlap with the one symptoms we used to call, right? So the one lesions with other lesions. So in that way, the classical computing, sometimes that may give a lot of false negatives. So if you use the quantum computing, that we can reduce the numbers. So that will ultimately helpful to get the better accuracy when compared to the classical.
That's a great point of advantage for this, sir. Thank you for taking your time from your busy schedule to give us this beautiful keynote and for answering the question as well. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear audience, thank you very much to Murugan sir for giving us this. Next up, we will be having our keynote on the topic drone technology and autonomous systems. Please help me invite Dr. Ranjay Hazra to deliver this session on drone technology and autonomous systems. Sir, the stage is yours.
Yeah, very warm good evening to one and all present. Firstly, thank you for giving me the opportunity. So I'll just start with my presentation. Please let me know once we are able to see it.
Yes, sure. Yes, sir. Your screen is visible.
Yeah, just a second. Yeah, so as I already said, I'll be discussing on drone technology and autonomous systems. So what exactly is a drone or an unmanned aerial vehicle, if I may put it in that way? It is something that flies without a pilot on board. It means that it is either autonomously connected, it is controlled remotely or by some sort of an onboard automation. When I talk about onboard automation, I want to say that the flight is autonomous, the takeoff and the landing of the drone is autonomous, the path is autonomous, and etc. When I say that a UAV will have autonomous flight modes, I mean to say that it is controlled through the transmitter via the ground control station. It is so overall, if you see an unmanned aerial vehicle or a drone, it is also integrated with a lot of sensors. The sensors could be anything for an inertial measurement unit, which is usually equipped with something which is known as a gyroscope, something which is known as an accelerometer, and a magnetometer. The magnetometer usually helps in measuring the magnetic field. The accelerometer helps in measuring the acceleration, and when I talk about the gyroscope, it helps in measuring the orientation as well as the velocity or the direction in which the drone is going to move. Now, why are all these sensors so important, along with obviously GPS, which helps us in measuring the exact location? Why these sensors are very important? Because they overall help in maintaining the stability of the drone. Now, along with that, the information from the sensors, the control of these autonomous flight modes, the entire communication link. See, we have to understand one thing, that once it is integrated with with these sensors, it is autonomously managed. We need to establish certain sort of communication link such so that the data can be shared, the data can be transmitted, the data can be received. And for that, the communication link could either be a wired communication link or it could be a wireless communication link. When I talk about some of the communication links, it could be something, a 5G new radio, it could be a cellular link, it could be an LTE link, it could be a Wi-Fi link, it could be a Bluetooth link, it could also be a LiDAR based link and a WAN based link. So there could be enormous number of communication links which could be there, and once when they are integrated, when the links are established, your data can be collected and hence the task is basically executed. Now, when I talk about the operation, as I already said, the information or the program should come from the ground control station. That is one way of maintaining the entire operation of the drone, or it could be a pre-programmed navigation. So using the GPS coordinates, the drone can be autonomously operated using the onboard processors. The processors could be the various components starting from sensors, could be the telemetry devices, could be the motors, it could be the onboard processors in the form of Jetson Nano or Arduino, and etc. and etc. Talking about how we can classify the drones. So the first diagram which you see on the right side is basically a fixed wing. Looks very similar to what an aeroplane is all about. Now, what is the advantage with these kind of drones? Basically, it is able to carry or cover a long distance, and it is able to carry a heavy payload. But the problem is there's no vertical takeoff or landing possible using these type of drones. The second sort of drone which we have is a single rotor drone. Rotor means it has only a single motor. With a single motor, which is capable of taking a vertical takeoff as well as a vertical landing is also possible. It is more energy efficient. When I talk about more energy efficient, when you compare these single rotor drones with the multi-rotor drones, obviously multi-rotor drones has more number of rotors, but with the same efficiency, with the same weight, it will be able to carry more payload as compared to what a multi-rotor drone would be able to do. Talking about these multi-rotor drones, as I said, it consists of 4 to 8 rotors. It is possible for a vertical takeoff and a vertical landing. The flight duration is usually very less, and it is very ideal for any sort of cargo transportation. If you want to have any agricultural spraying, if it is required to carry a cargo from one place to the other, nothing better than these multi-rotor drones because they help in targeted action. Talking about the hybrid drone, which is a combination of both the fixed wing as well as the rotor based architecture. So when I talk about the hybrid ones, because it's a combination of both fixed wing and a rotor based architecture, it is possible for covering a large area, as well as there is a possibility of having this vertical takeoff and landing. And as a result, it is able to balance a good amount of payload capacity and also cover a good range. It is usually used for surveillance kind of task. Talking about the fifth variety of drones, it is called the ducted form of drones. Usually, if you see, they are mainly dealing with very precise kind of a task. Say, for example, crop monitoring, low altitude or very high altitude task. Very specific tasks can be performed by these ducted drones. Going to the next slide, basically on basis of the weight, drones can again be classified into 5 different types. The first one being the nano drone. The nano drones usually are those drones which usually have a weight of around 250 grams to not more than or less than 250 grams. They're ideally used for indoor use, mainly for playing, mainly for short range surveillance, and they're less than 250 grams. Talking about the next sort of drones, which is the micro drone, it varies between 250 grams to around 2 kilos, and it is usually used for close range monitoring as well as the basic imaging task. The stating from the image processing and the pattern recognition tasks. So micro drone is very much applicable for such works. Talking about the small drone weight, they usually lie between 2 kilos to 25 kilos, and they are widely used in agriculture, 3D mapping, creating an entire map of the environment, and obviously helps in environmental monitoring. Going to the next sort of drones, which is the medium drones. They are between 25 kilos to 150 kilos. They are able to capable of carrying heavier sensors. Say, for example, which are very much required for cargo delivery, spraying task, industrial inspection. And moving on to the large drone weight, these are usually used in military application, having a weight of more than 150 kilos, long range missions, artilleries, and basic infrastructure they can also be used for. Moving to the next slide, we'll now talk about the entire construction. What is inside the entire drone? Okay. So the most important part of the drone is the frame, which actually forms the backbone of this drone. Now, when I talk about this frame, the frame is actually responsible for holding these various components which are present in a drone, starting from the various sensors, the onboard processors, the receiver, the electronic serial controller, the motors, the propellers, etc., even the cameras, etc., and etc., all integrated onto the frame. This frame is basically made of carbon fiber or plastic, usually from a 3D printed material, and it is able to minimize the weight. So your frame cannot be very, very heavy. Otherwise, it has to have a trade-off between with the payload. So the frame has to be such that it is able to carry the entire payload and as well as hold the various components together during any drone operation. So this is how the frame actually looks like. Moving to the next part, which is the most important part of the drone, which is the flight controller. We say the flight controller is the brain of the drone. Why? Because it processes the various information coming from the sensors. And once it receives the information from the various sensors, it is able to manage or control the motor speed so that it is able to maintain the stability in the drone. The drone is stable enough so that it can collect the data and it can come back. It also uses some of the software algorithms also to if it has to stabilize the drones and execute some of the flight commands. We have to also understand that flight controller also receives commands from the ground control station, sometimes from the transmitter, processes those information and sends it to the receiver for further processing. So all these things are taken care by the flight controller. And for a flight controller to work, say for example, if it belongs to a certain company, say for example, DJI, or say for example, in certain cases, the platform which are Arduino Pilot, or in cases it could be ROS, it has to be compatible enough with these platforms so that the flight controller works perfectly. Or talking about the electronic speed controller, so basically this is the bridge between the flight controller and the motor. Since we said that the flight controller is basically managing the speed of the motor, so this controlling the speed of the motor is done basically through the ESC. So the flight controller gives the command to the ESC gives the command to the motor to stop the rotation or to stop the propeller movement. So all these things are taken care by the ESC once it receives a command from the flight controller. Motors, which is one of the most important things. Usually the motors which are used nowadays are all BLDC, which is brushless DC motor. The advantage of using the BLDC motors over the brush motors are because they give you a greater efficiency, better precise control, and a longer lifespan. When I talk about the motor rating being around 2400 kV, it means that it has to have 2400 into 10 to the power 3 rotations, because every volt corresponds to a single rotation. So likewise, the rating basically tells us the relationship between the peak voltage and the rotation speed. Motors are again divided into two parts. One is the rotor, which is the moving part, and the other is the stator, which is the static part. So the static part basically has the windings. The rotor part is made up of permanent magnets. Now, how does this motor work? Because it's a synchronous motor. It is powered by a DC current and it is controlled electronically. Now the question comes, how does the motor? So the motor basically starts moving. Once the motor starts moving, it tells the propellers also start rotating. Once the propellers start rotating, it pushes the air downwards, which the drone has to displace so that the drone can now fly. So it displaces the air downwards, creates a thrust, and that is how the drones can fly. Moving on, as I said, if there are 4 set of propellers inside this drone, if it's a quadcopter kind of a thing, 2 of the propellers would move in the clockwise direction. The other 2 propellers would move in the anti-clockwise direction. That is how the propellers move. So the motor rotates the propeller rotates and creates the thrust for the drones to take the lift and fly. Talking about, as I already told you, radio receiver is also one such component that takes the command from the transmitter. So there is a transmitter which is transmitting the information via the flight controller. That commands goes to the receiver. The receiver is already embedded onto your the drone, and it executes the command based on the information the transmitter gives. We also have the flight camera, which I also say is the eyes of the drone. It is able to capture good videos, good quality, high definition or good quality images. And based on the images, now they are processed, and accordingly, what is the next set of action the drone must do is decided thereafter. Moving to the next part, the batteries. Again, the battery is also a very important component, which is again present on the drone. As you can see in this diagram, we have 3 different cells. So each cell corresponds to 3.7 volt. So the total cell has a total voltage or a total power of 11.1. Now there's a catch. More is the power or more is the voltage, your weight gets compromised. So you have to choose your lithium ion battery in such a way such that the weight of your drone is balanced or managed in such a way such that the drone is able to carry a good amount of payload. So the more weight you add to the multi-rotor, the shorter the flight duration becomes, because the more weight it has to then push around to take care of this. So that's one of the trade-off which is there. Coming to the most important part, how this drone actually works. So it's based on the concept of aerodynamics. As I said, once the motor starts moving, it displaces the air which is around it to the downwards, and it creates a thrust so that the drone can fly up. So that sort of motion is known as the lift. Now, in order to balance that lift, there is a gravitational force which tries to bring the drone downwards. So your thrust, which is generated through the motors, must be greater than the gravitational force for the drone to fly upwards. Similarly, since the drone has propellers and the motors, it is also responsible for taking the drone forward. And for that to happen, you have another set of motion known as a drag, which tries to bring the drone backwards. So your thrust, again, motion should be more than the drag, so that your drone is also able to move in the forward direction. So these 4 forces of motion actually makes the entire drone fly. So this 4 motion or the 4 aerodynamic forces are responsible for the entire working of a drone. Coming to another important topic, which is the axis of rotation. How does the drone rotate? So there are 3 axes of rotation. One is the roll, the other is the pitch, and the third is the yaw. In case of roll, we see that the movement is front to back axis, but this is only possible when the drone has a movement left and right around the wings. So that basically helps in creating this motion of roll. When I talk about the pitch, which is basically a side to side axis, the pitch basically helps this nose, when I call this as the nose, to move up and down. So if your nose moves up and down, you get this motion which is known as pitch. Coming to the third sort of motion, which is yaw, which is the vertical axis. For this, in this kind of axis of rotation, the yaw, the nose again will move either to the left or it will move to the right. So left, right is basically the yaw. So again, these 3 axes of rotation help in maintaining your movement of the drone. Again, coming to the entire zone or the restriction, the entire so you take care of to take the help of any drone, they basically follow some safety regulations. One of them being the green zone, the second being the yellow zone, and the third being the red zone. Now, for any drone which flies, the maximum height as per the DGCA regulations or the safety regulations in India, they cannot fly above 120 feet, 120 meters or 400 feet. That's the maximum a drone can fly. And for that to happen, you have to get your drone registered with the ministry or with the authority, first and foremost. So as I was saying, in green zone, no special permission is required to allow any drone to fly. So you can have a drone fly to a maximum of 400 feet or 120 meters. That is permissible. When you come to the yellow zone, prior permission has to be taken by the drone who is flying the drone. Prior permission has to be taken in order to let the drone fly in this zone. The red zone, which is a strictly no zone, you cannot allow your drone to fly in this area. Basically, talking about the military installation or the secretary complexes, the important monuments like Taj Mahal or the Red Fort, the Parliament House, etc. and etc. So for safety regulations, you cannot fly your drone in these red zones. Some other restriction for the maximum drone, there is a medium drone, the small drone. For the large drone, as I said, the maximum you can take up these drones is 120 meters or 400 feet. For the nano drones, however, it is restricted to 15 meters. Drones must always be flown when the operator is actually able to see the drone. So it must be in the line of sight. Night flying is usually avoided. Even flying, you cannot allow your drone to fly over crowded places. That's strictly prohibited. For the safety of everybody, drones must maintain a good and a safe distance from people, property, and etc. And you cannot collect or do some sort of surveillance without explicit permission. So these are some of the things which needs to be followed. Now, before I move to the autonomous part, one thing we need to understand is the concept of computer vision. Why? Because once this data is collected, or the information, whether it is a visual data, visual means the data which is collected from the camera or the video, there has to be a machine which will interpret this data. And that's why we say computer vision is very, very important. It's a field of AI which is responsible, or which helps the machines, that is the system, which is integrated with a lot of AI-based applications or AI-based tools, which helps in interpreting this visual data. Coming to the computer vision, again, one of the subset of computer vision being image processing, which extracts the information so that the image quality, the information becomes more and more interpretable. That's what is image processing, so that your visual quality or the extracted information which you have extracted becomes more and more meaningful. Coming to one more important concept is feature extraction. So whenever we are collecting some distinct features, we are converting those features into some numerical representation so that we are able to reconstruct certain information from there. Talking about pattern recognition, it is again an algorithm which is used to identify and classify some of the patterns. Say, for example, you can use, if you want to find out what is the texture or what is the color based on the pattern, nothing better than using pattern recognition. So there are numerous applications of computer vision, but if this computer vision can be integrated with an AI, then the entire operation becomes an autonomous drone. So that's why understanding computer vision is very, very important. And image segmentation is also one such, whereby you are again partitioning the image into smaller parts so that you are able to extract good, meaningful information based on the structure, based on the morphological characteristics, based on the features, etc. etc. Talking about, as I said, what is the advantage of using computer vision? You are able to do autonomous navigation without any manual intervention. Drones are able to identify and classify any objects in real time. A good amount of real-time decision making is possible. It has diverse applications, starting from surveillance to agriculture sector, etc. etc. When you combine in computer vision with obviously drone technology, the accuracy of your detection also improves. Drones usually can operate in hazardous environment where human cannot go. So nothing better than using drones along with computer vision. Obviously, in complex environment where the terrain is very challenging, mountainous, there's good amount of water, computer vision plays a major role over there. And drones are obviously useful in various such applications such as agriculture, delivery, rescue operations, etc. etc. So some of the future, if I were to talk about some of the importance, as I said, some of the importance is the data which is collected from the various sensors. There is some decision-making algorithm which works on those data. It executes this command and finally is able to execute your output in a proper way. And for that to happen, your communication protocols, your control system, everything should be okay. Some of the future developments, obviously, talking about some of the real-time data analysis or real-time data collection, autonomous navigation, object detection, tracking those objects, mapping those objects, or mapping the environment from where you have to extract those objects, and 3D mapping are some of the future innovations or the future developments. As I said, some of the drone tracking techniques where using the present data, you are able to calculate what is going to be the future or what is the future estimates for any, say for example, when I talk about estimating the exact location of your drone, nothing better than using Kalman filtering. If you want to track multiple objects at the same time using drone, nothing better than multi-object tracking. Predictive tracking is also one where previous data is used to forecast what is going to be the object's future position. So some of the basic challenges in object detection, environment is one of them, because rain, fog, clouds can hinder the data which is to be collected. They basically affect the accuracy. Regulatory issues, you cannot move a drone or fly a drone above 120 meters, which is as per law not allowed. Ethical issues will arise if you collect data without permission, so that needs to be practiced. And there's a technical limitation in whatever sort of drone you use, because every drone has a battery or a certain processing power which can work for a certain duration. Say for example, the normal quadcopters which are assembled cannot work more than 15 to 20 minutes or even max to max half an hour. So the battery needs to be re-energized or charged so that it can again be used. Some of the I'll just skip this because some of the object detection algorithms like YOLO is very much famous. As I was talking about the computer vision algorithms, some of the computer vision algorithms which is exclusively used in object detection using drone based imaging is nothing than YOLO. So YOLO is one such application because it helps to map as well as localize your object, and finally once your object is localized, you're able to classify that also in a better way. So that's one of the advantage, because the entire detection as well as classification is done in a single step. I'll move on. I can skip this part. I'll come to one which is very important, and I'll finish off with that. Is the autonomous drone systems. When I talk about the autonomous drone systems, you see it's intelligent, it is adaptive, and it is autonomous. So why exactly do we go for this autonomous drone systems? Firstly, it's safe, it's reliable, because we are able to avoid any sort of real-time obstacles. We are able to precisely navigate even in extreme environment or complex environment. All these whatever application you want to use it for, it is executed with the utmost accuracy. And last but not the least, the entire application is executed in the least amount of time with the best sort of planning and by using an optimized path. So that's why we say that to be an autonomous drone system. First and foremost, your drones are integrated with a lot of sensors ranging from LiDAR, which is light detection and ranging, which basically helps in creating a 3D environment. Cameras, the good old cameras, collects your high definition or high good quality videos. The IMU, maintaining the stability of the entire drone by the use of magnetometers, gyroscope, and accelerometer. And you have the GPS for the exact coordinates. So any sort of real-time data acquisition and understanding is done with the help of this perception layer. Then we move on to the cognition layer, which understands and decides what next to be done using this ML or the AI based algorithms, which I just spoke about, that is using of computer vision. Apart from computer vision, you can use sensor fusion. So you can fuse all these sensors so that it give you much more information using some sort of deep learning algorithms, reinforcement learning, and SLAM, which is simultaneously mapping as well as collection of data. So when this cognition is done, then you start to plan. So how you will be able to execute your application in the best possible way. So taking the least number of steps in planning, avoiding if there's any sort of obstacles, planning the entire mission. That is, we are basically tracing which paths to be followed so that your application can be covered in the best least number of steps and in the most optimal way. And finally, once the mission is planned, to the control or the entire application has to be done with the utmost precision. So in such cases, the best form of flight controllers are used. Pixoc could be one of them. You can also use robot operating system. You can also use drone kit, etc. and etc. for such operations. Along with, there are good onboard processors like Jetson Nano are also there. So as I said, integration is the most important. Once you are integrating it, you can use it for various applications, starting from precision agriculture to good amount of surveillance, even in disaster places, in flood-like situations where human beings cannot go. Drone can capture good amount of image and give you the required information. I will go to the last slide. So some of the key concepts in drone navigation, as I said, when you combine drones with drone technology with computer vision, you are basically making it used for autonomous operations. And further, you are taking care of the safety and efficiency. Second is how good you plan your path, whether your path is optimally planned so that the obstacles are avoided and your data reaches within the time. Then real-time mapping, what is to be detected, avoiding any sort of obstacles, simultaneously localizing and creating a map so that you ultimately know what you have to carry on, what sort of objective you have to do, what sort of an application you have to use it for. And finally, your accuracy gets improved when you combine both your visual data, that is the image, as well as the video sort of data, along with the data which you can take from the sensors. And that helps you in finding out exactly where your object is. And even if you want to track where your object is present, nothing better than using those drones. I'll just talk about, go through some of the applications. As you can see, you are able to identify various vehicles and the trucks, even for identifying the various species trees, for identifying the weed, for any sort of disease which the plants are affected with. Nothing better than the drones. If you want to monitor your basic livestock, as well as your animals, whether they are okay or not, even for water management in your paddy fields, even for creating a 3D map and surveying the entire agricultural land, or even for agricultural spraying, exactly when you need to spray, smart farming, for planting, for throwing of seed, for targeted spraying of seeds, even in countries like China, where your drones are actually used to deliver your data, even for medical surveys also, or carrying medical or even kidneys like this. Nothing better than using drones for doing geosophical physical survey, for cleaning of turbines, for finding out whether there's a landmine or a bomb. First aid, as I already said, in medical applications, exactly dropping of seeds, monitoring volcanoes, landslides where humans cannot go, for inspecting any sort of cracks in the railway lines or the bridges. Drones can be of utmost uh, use. I'll finish over here. If you have any doubt, please ask me. Any questions?
Thank you very much, sir, for your detailed explanation and keynote on drone, the flight controllers, motors, India's airspace, and how it's being taken place, the understanding of the computer vision and the future developments. Thank you very much. And we have one question for you, if I may, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yes. So, sir, can you tell us the key challenges that are there in making drones that are fully autonomous in real world situations like this? What are the key challenges, sir, that we face?
Key challenges, as I already told, is taking into constraint the environmental conditions, integrating the drones with a lot of sensors, because you need to know exactly which sensor to be used, because every sensor has a certain application. So that, for example, when I talk about the IMU sensors, we must understand that stability of the drone is of utmost importance. Then we talk about the GPS, which helps in tracking the exact coordinates. That is also very, very important. If you want to use it for some mission planning, then what sort of other sensors needed to be used? You should plan it very carefully, so that the weight of your drone is not big enough, so that it is not able to match your payload. So the payload will actually, when you're using it for some application, obviously payload is very, very important. But if you're integrating your drone and making it heavy with these sensors, with these onboard processors, with the receiver, with the ESC, with the motors, then ultimately whatever payload you wanted to carry or whatever mission you wanted to your drone to be used for would actually fail. So you have to be very, very precise, even with the frame which we are using. So you have to be very, very precise with the entire assembling of your drone, along with the sensors and with the other devices which you are putting up on the drone itself. Okay, that's the major one of the major challenges. Obviously, apart from that, the regulatory constraints following the Government of India regulations need to be also managed.
Yes, I got it. Thank you very much for answering the question and for beautifully explaining your whole topic on drone technology and autonomous systems. Thank you for sparing your time for this keynote, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, and thank you to the audience for being so supportive. Thank you so much. Good.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Next up, we have our last and final keynote for today's webinar on the topic Agentic AI. Please help me invite Dr. R. Rajkumar sir to speak on Agentic AI.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity, Mo. You have done your good job. Okay, so we'll go for the session. So my topic is agentic AI. Hope my screen is visible fully, right?
Yes, sir, fully visible.
Yeah. So my topic is agentic AI. There is what almost last 2025 and 26, all the IT companies and also the other departments, they are actually talking about the agentic AI. So how actually it will be, future. How what is the future for the agentic AI? So all the everywhere actually we are in the talk of the town. And so today I just setting some agenda. So if you are a programmer or non-programmer, whomever may be, so today I'll be giving you some of the insights, how actually we can use the agentic AI for our day-to-day platform. For example, nowadays actually we are using the Google Gemini and Chat GPT and many purpose. So how actually we can use for the agentic AI also for our day-to-day professional as well as the personal life. So that is what I'm just setting some small target end of this webinar. So agentic AI, in especially in the AI world, many people will be always still the people are thinking that that's a future of everything is a futuristic, and even the brilliant code is needed, coder is needed, and especially for the complete world is moving towards to the data scientist, and it should need of the complex languages like Python and C++. So there is a thinking, there is a thought process of all the things. But in terms of the agentic AI era, yes, we have some kind of the skills, but not all the technical skills. Even if we have very good process mind, so then we can use the for agentic AI. So for example, the chat GPT, whatever actually we are doing it right now, that's a generative AI. So that's we are asking some questions, and based on the question the information will be retrieval, and after the information, whichever the information actually it's needed, and we can take it. See, for example, that's kind of even for customized information also we'll be getting it based on our previous queries, just like a Google search. That is kind of the generative AI, which is LLM, and we used to tell a large language model. And agentic AI is a kind of we are working with the system, and just like a colleague, just like a friend. So it is kind of the executive assistant. So we can actually give some work, and we can wait for some time, and let the work will be complete, and we can even after that we can verify the work, and then we can yes, no, not like this, we can go for some other way of methods. Like that we can supervise of the AI. That's a kind of the concept of the agentic AI. So it is kind of the executive assistant, or it kind of the colleague. It can, I mean, whatever we are giving the order, based on that, based on the settings, it has to perform the work. So that is the agentic AI. So agentic AI is not only a single brain or a single process. It is a system. It is a collection of the system which having a multiple roles and responsibilities for any task. So that is it is a system. So for autonomy of the agentic AI system is initially it is start with the brain, which is the large language model, which we are already knowing, and we are using it, the Gemini and the GPT and perplexity, and that's all the things that it's kind of the agentic AI. I mean the brain and the memory is we have a two-time kind of the memory for in terms of the agentic AI. One is the short-term memory and the long-term memory. A short-term memory is the current conversation, what actually today's weather, what is today's schedule, and whatever the content recently actually we are discussing. So that's kind of the memory is kind of the short-term memory. And a long-term memory is what is that our name and mail ID, our phone number, and how what is the role actually we are working on this organization, and what are the roles and responsibilities. So everything is actually we the data should be feed in our system, so that our based on the role, based on the task, and based on the current conversation, the AI agents will be working, and then according to that we can customize the AI agent. So tools, in terms of the tools, it should be connect with the APIs. That is, for example, the application program interface, and search for the web, and use of calculator, and creating a picture, creating a video, and many things are there. Tools means whatever the task we have to perform for the large task. So for example, we instead of using a single AI tool or a single generic AI, we can use for the multiple AIs, which can be focused on very good results, very good accuracy, and then we can work together. So that is what the tools. So whatever the hands, I'm just telling the tools is the hands for the agentic AI. Then the perception is based on the customized, is completely based on the customized one. For example, what are the emails actually we are getting it, and how to reply it, and what is the not only the replaying just like a text. Okay, what kind of the systematically how we can replay it, what time we have to replay it, and whether we should reply on harsh or very politely or friendly. So that kind of the everything we can set it itself, and also the sensors and files. So everything can be read by the agentic AI, and based on that it has to do the task. So as of agentic AI is not no longer AI working, the writing for you. So it is about AI writing with you, just like a Copilot, Microsoft Copilot and Perplexity, and many, even as a researchers, you will be working with the many research papers. It's not for AI is writing for you. It is about AI writing along with you, based on your own plus and minus. It will be observing it, and based on your own writing it. And it's not only writing for the paper or journal article, it is also the working along with you. So what time actually will be active, morning or afternoon or whatever. So based on the time and what kind of task actually you can complete it. So what kind of difficult task actually you can assign for the agentic AI, just like a colleague. Okay, so that is the purpose of the agentic AI. So the last foundation is actually the agentic AI. Actually, still, it has to work with the patterns and reasonings, just like a LLM model. It has to working with, but we have to give the task. For example, nowadays the booking of the flight ticket or booking of the train ticket, especially the tackle train ticket booking, still at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever the automation is there, but anyway, while tackle ticket booking, we have to log in it based on the heavy traffic. We have to book the ticket and entering of the traveler's name and those details, and finally, yes, we can achieve the booking maybe a 5 to 10 minutes. So even though we have a many AI systems are there, but still we are suffering for the tackle ticket booking. So in this kind of the scenario, whichever, yeah, we can perform, but it may take some lot of time. For example, music composing, and typing in a system very faster manner, or otherwise editing the video, especially for the reels editing. So these things are actually the human can do well by using his own creativity. But if we give that same task to the system, especially on that task only, not the generic one. So for example, I'm a Rajkumar here. So based on my knowledge and my skill set, so the agentic AI will also work along with me. So that is the purpose of the foundation model for the agentic AI. So let's see, this is the very good example. If you are giving, see, the query says, go to my Gmail and find the presentation in the designer sent me last month. See, I don't mention any kind of the date also. So the designer maybe has sent last month. Pull into the three key ideas. So now actually we are generating the ideas, and go to the Google Drive. So now I'm just calling with the Google Drive. Now first initially checking the inbox. So I'm just giving the permission for checking the inbox for the agentic AI, one of the agentic AI, and to read all the mails whichever comes from the last month. Then pull the three keys ideas. So whichever the as per the designer sent, as per the in that mail, whatever the ideas, and in that Google Drive, whichever the drive related to that Gmail, and pictures and took whiteboard in the March and summarize to that. So that is what the actually we are giving a 2 to 3 tasks for one agentic AI, and then it has to do it by combining all the tasks, whichever the priority, and it has to perform it. So let's say a small example for the agentic AI. I'm just playing a small video. So she want to book a ticket for attending an event on a conference. So it is not only the ticket app booking. So it is actually, she is working in a company. The company has an account department, and that account department actually releasing the payment for our booking, and also it also working along with the the external websites which for the booking for the flight, also the airport arrival and hotel booking. So budget approved from the department head, which is the department head from the accounts department. So that will be linked to the department. So this is the one of the agentic AI, which is a Symphony. That is actually even nowadays. Actually, whatever we are, many corporate people, if you are attending, no, we are using the Monday.com, and we are using it for the task, scheduling and preparation of this. There are many ERP softwares are available. Even the Zogo has their own software, and Microsoft team, and actually we are scheduling it. But in future, we just have this kind of the Symphony AI. So even we can integrate with the accounts department and the sales department and marketing department, everyone together, just like a conversation, and backend the complete AI will be take care of the process. So the other one, very complex one actually for video editing, for especially for the content creator as a academician, as well as for the any kind of the startup. So how actually we can create the content, multiple combination of the pictures and videos and the audio file and text together, and it should be effectively should be delivered. So that is a very difficult task always. So now the agentic AI, we have to give the assigning of the work. So only that thing is tips for talking on the camera. That is what the query is about, and there will be a lot of images will be generated, and that images where actually we have to use it. See, it is a kind of the supervising AI. It's not we are not giving a complete freedom to that. So we will be just testing the taste of the audience, and some kind of the assignment we are giving it to that. And then so it will be perfectly, after the perfectly done, so we can download it, and then we can upload it to any kind of the social media or YouTube. So this is one of the example. And yeah, so this is what actually I told it. The name is opal.google. So here you can see that I need a tool. It needs a big text box for a formal email, and it's need two buttons. One is translate to small English, and which is actually the no thank you. For example, we are getting a lot of mails. So whenever actually we are receiving the mails, we cannot give the reply as soon as possible. That is whenever we are having the free time, and after reading again we are checking the mail, and then only we can reply it. So in this scenario, even our day-to-day process, how actually we can employ a agentic AI instead of replying ourselves. So we have to deploy a agentic AI, and in our inbox, and whatever the mail comes, it has to reply. But make sure that how actually we are replying it, based on that it's not the replying the same text for every mail. Okay, so for example, if our own heads are giving some kind of the mail, or maybe our employees are giving some kind of the mail, or outside people or marketing people, so we have to completely divide into multiple streams, and actually we have to classify it based on the keywords. We should give the classification, and whatever the mail comes, as soon as maybe 2 to 3 minutes, it has to wait, and then it has to reply. So this is the kind of the system we can assign for the agentic AI. You can see that. So this is the formal email content and a simplification of the email. And yes, now we just creating of the two things. One is see, this is the one. This is the one replay, original replay or simple English replay. So there are two kind of the replay. Actually, we can make it. See, it is not only for replaying an email. Actually, we are creating a more app for application for that. So it is not only the replaying, text content. No, it is actually we are just creating application. In application, we have two options. One is a replay as a original or simple English or polite no thank you. So original means based on their mail, it has to read, and then based on the replay. So again, it will go for a LLM model, and then it will replay. A simple English, whichever the maybe a student giving a replay, giving a mail. No, according to that, the student so he will be giving a simple English. Otherwise, if any marketing mails or any kind of the unwanted or whatever, it's no need of. I mean, it's not a it's not a important one, then we can give a politely no thank you. So this how actually we can do it. So I'm just opening the my browser, which is the yeah so which is the opal dot google. Yeah, opal dot google, that is the actually website URL. So earlier I have tried with the tax invoice and these things. Now in front of you, I'm just creating a create new. So what kind of application we can build it by using this? So I'm just telling. So like the same scenario. For example, we would like to invite for a webinar by AR.
Sir, can you
ARPR.
please share your screen? Sorry to
Oh, I'm
pause.
sorry. I'm sorry, ma. I will share the screen again. Okay, now it's opening, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Open.
Yeah. So ARPR event on 27th April 2026. Okay. Now, so I don't want to see, this is the invitation, and also I don't want to give the name, phone number, or anything, because if you want to create the Google form, we have to create the like this. Whatever we have done the webinar, we are creating the Google form for name and mobile number. So we just give the registration can be done with basic information of the attendees. Yeah, so this is what actually I'm giving it. See, we would like to invite, otherwise I will dare it. Okay, I will like to invite webinar by APR event on 27th April the registration can be done with the basic information of the attendees. So I'm just giving it. So now the invitation and the basic information, and after that the registration. I mean, after the registration, no, they have to get the information that a registration is already done. So like this, I have to perform it. So let's see the agentic AI actually. Agentic AI means we have to split up the different tasks, and then we can connect just like a thread. We can connect to each other, and finally we can able to make it as a complete model. So here you can see that the webinar invitation generate the details texture content of the webinar invitation. So if you this, so here you can see the webinar topic, webinar, the speaker name and host organization, webinar date and time, and webinar platform, and additional details. So everything is here. So if you want to edit it, we can edit it. And yes, generate the webinar invitation. See, this is the layout. So we can add some of the logo also. And yes, we can add some of the logo. So adding logo, even though we can speak it, no need of typing. Even though we can speak also. Actually right now I'm connected with this StreamYard, so I cannot speak right now. So adding logo. So here if I give the adding logo, in the sense it will be giving the option of where to add the logo. And yes, so all the things actually predefined things actually it will be arrived. And yeah, we can, if for example if we want to generate some speakers photos, see here you can see that webinar topic and a speaker's name and host organization, webinar date, and everything will be collected. And finally I will preview that. So preview means you can see that here webinar topic, what webinar topic actually, let's say agentic AI. Okay, so provide the name of the speaker. Okay, so I will tell Govindan sir. So yes, so what is the name and ARPR? So specific date and time. Even though if we can add, no need of typing. If we want to add some kind of the content from your YouTube, or even though from a picture or anything also can be added. No need of always typing or voice communication. If we want to just the same whatever actually in our invitation, that's you just upload the invitation, and then that will be from that the content will be extracted. Okay, I'm just keeping these things. Okay, I'm just giving a 26th April 2026. Okay, and time is 5 p.m. So here there is no format, there is no kind of any kind of the rules. So whatever the now YouTube, yeah, any other information, it will be useful. Okay, that's all I have done for my work. So up to this, it is creating a, so actually the normal whatever we are doing it for them, creating a Google form and hosting in a website. And after the registration, the again the backend will be collecting all the data from the participants. So everything will be on a one platform now. Hope I am connected, ma.
Yes, sir, you're connected.
Yeah, okay. So it's a rendering now. So this is the via platform and agentic AI, dear professionals. So why to attend it, and so all the things actually we are creating it. So right now I am just publishing and sharing it. Whom to share? Actually, anyone with the link, or I can customize the link also. So I'm just publishing it. Anyone with the link. So copy the file, and I'm just making a yes. So this is what the right now we just created hardly just 2 minutes, right? So this is what the webinar invitation. So again, if we want to add any other webinar in future also, we can enter the name of the webinar or anything. So this will be the application. It is not the Google form. This will be application. So it is the having a agentic AI, which registration form and about the details and everything together. So this we can actually, you can circulate to anyone, maybe the next webinar. So those people, they will be just giving the pages. I mean, whatever the content, they just fill it according to that. It will be generated. For example, this is a agentic AI, and for example, the drone. Actually, just now we had a wonderful session about the drone. Wonderful session about the computing. I mean, the previous Sarah actually given a very good session about the. I'm sorry for that computing. Yeah. So all the things actually we can just give the title alone, then completely the form will be generated. So now whichever the already is there, I'm just showcasing it. Opal. So this is why I'm telling, no, you can try this. So you can try this. So this webinar invitation, it came, and so right now I'm just book records. I'm just trying for it. So this is what the earlier one I have tried it. So what kind of, for example, here the sharing, after the sharing, here you can see this. So just like webinar we have created, but here is a completely customized. So here I'm just starting the books, and what kind of books actually I need to go. For example, I am just needing of the computer science book. So for the computer science books, so it will be giving only the computer science books. It will go and search for the internet, and it will give the very good books from the computer science. What I am given that, so books, one of the column, actually it is the display will be there, and after that, whatever the queries actually I am giving it. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's say computer books, because I know it of books, right? So I'm just giving computers. That's it. So actually, what I am giving that here, first 5 books recommendation and provide description. So whichever there already executed well. Probably the link is not working. I think link is disabling. Let's say in particular C++. Okay. Because actually it is not connected with the Gemini. So we'll check with the agent. So just like our colleague, actually how actually we are giving the task, no? Just like that we can give the comments. So actually we can change the theme and change the color, or you can publish it in your, just like it is not the simple Google form or like that. It is actually the application. It's a complete application. We can embed it into the HTML or any kind of the form, and we can, even though we can host it, we can publish it, because backend will be supported from our Google services. So like this, any kind of the agentic application will start from the scratch again. Let's say, for example, create a web page for normally what we are doing it, right? tax filing. So I'm just giving only this, create a web page for tax filing in India, in Indian context. So only this I'm giving it. So the agentic AI will work for as per the Indian context. What are the fields that need to fill it for the tax filing? So what is the income, and so all the things it will take it from the our own tax system, and then it will be generating the files, and it will connect each other. So this is a small application for the by using the Opal, and there are many applications are there by using the agentic AI. See that. So here the PAN number is there, assessment year is there, income details, and deduction, tax deduction details. So here, whether we don't want to connect with the PAN, yeah, we can remove it also. We just click it and then we can remove it also. And assessment year, yes, actually these are the mandatory field. It will connected it, and yes, preview is there, text file filer, and I'm just making a one file. Yes, assessment year 2025 and 26. So by income details, let's say 10 lakhs, and providing your deduction details, let's say for 1 lakh. Oh, I think it's not connected with the Gemini properly. But anyway, so this is the thing. I mean, I'm just creating the application only from my system. The tax is not. It's not connected with the Gemini. But if you try with your own system, I'm just giving the link in our YouTube live, so then you can all connect it. So whether my YouTube in the YouTube is working or what? Link? Can you check it, Ma?
Yes, sir. It's working, sir. Working.
Okay. So you can all just click it, and just here 1 minute only we can able to make any kind of the application. So that is the purpose of the agentic AI, and lot of things by using agentic AI we can completely design the web web applications, just like a IRTC portal or a college management portal, or only for fees collections, or ticket booking, or railway ticket booking, or movie ticket booking, bus ticket booking. So any kind of the application we can make it just in minutes. So any doubts, or especially any things, actually we have to connect with that Gemini. That means for the LLM model, for the consult. The for initially it has to go and fetch the content, and after that it has to connect with the forms, and then after that it should be display. Backend it has to store the information whatever actually we are giving it. According to that, the web page will be designed. Yes. So up to that, I finishing my speech. Yes.
Thank you very much, sir, for that detailed explanation on agentic AI. And it was very beautiful to see the live example in front of us and for giving all of us access to that as well, sir. We have one question for you, sir, if I may.
Yeah, please.
So what are some risks associated when we are deploying the highly autonomous AI agents in real world activities, just like the example you showed, sir? What are some risks that are involved in this?
Yeah, risk are there, risk are everywhere. Only the thing is we don't know because we are not completely coded from the scratch. We're just using it, just like for food items, the packet foods are there, right? The packet foods. So the packet foods, what is there inside, we don't know. But outside there is that's a good product, and calories and everything is there. So based on that, actually we are just consuming it. The same thing for agentic AI also. So, but anyway, we have to validate it before going for the actual market. We have to validate in terms of the cyber security, and all the checking should be there. We have to again, it is again the application, right? For application, it has to check with all the black box testing and white box testing, and finally only we have to deploy to the real customers.
Perfect, sir. Thank you very much for explaining about this and for taking your valuable time, for giving us this beautiful keynote, and for giving us the live example as well, sir. Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the ARPR events, and especially to you, Ma. And the previous speakers also, they are very good. They are narratively well, and thanks for that information also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. And we thank all our speakers for gracing us with all of their presence today and giving us a lot of insights on each of their specializations. So, a small information about ARPR Events. It's a growing event management and academic engagement organization established on 12th December 2023 by professionals connected to academia and industry. Founded by Mr. Krishnamurthy, a pharmacist and founder of Kai Kati Tours, Mr. M. Govindan, PRO, Manoharan Admission Consultant, Ms. Malay Magal, Corporate Trainer of Vital Square, Mr. Solai Selvin, CMA Practitioner, and we have recently joined Mr. Balachandar from HR Consultancy. The team is committed to education, professional development, and institutional collaboration, making ARPR Events a trusted platform for academic excellence. The vision is to bridge academia and industry through impactful events and knowledge-sharing platforms. Our mission is to recognize excellence in education and professional fields, promote innovation, research, and collaboration, deliver high-quality academic and corporate events. Our major events that we usually handle are Sci-Edu Awards, which happened in 2024, 2025, and 2026. We also have our CEM Edu Awards, happened in 2024 and 2025, yet to happen in 2026, which is basically our upcoming event, the Excellence CEM SEA Awards 2026, which is scheduled to happen on 12th of July 2026 in IIT Madras Research Park, Chennai. I repeat, Excellence SEMC Awards 2026, scheduled to happen on 12th July 2026 in IIT Madras Research Park, Chennai. We organize webinars and initiatives. Our first national webinar was on 25th April 2025. And this, what we had today, was our ongoing webinar series, edition 2 of what happened last year. So we were supported by Makkal Kural newspaper, editor R. Muthukumar, Dr. Suresh A. Shan, CSI-Mumbai Chapter chairman, and Dr. R. Rajkumar, IET Chennai Local Network secretary. Thank you very much to everyone for joining us today, to all our keynote speakers for playing a very essential role and giving us a lot of knowledge. And thank you to all our viewers for supporting us today and for actively collaborating in the chat box as well. Thank you very much. I hope you had a lot of insights in today's program and you had a lot of takeaways from all those great speakers today. Signing off, Gisha Sridhar. Thank you very much.